All right, so I'm Beck Lane, and this is Catalyst and Company. Catalyst and Company, we're a catalyst in each other's lives as well as our own. And we work at being the artist artists we've always wanted to be. Now, yesterday I did a video, and I've been, it was a little difficult because I've been filled with anxiety and a tremendous amount of fear and trepidation and stuff, but it was a little helpful. And I was just standing here thinking, I don't want to talk. I'm actually very bad at going out. I'm very bad at opening the door and walking out and getting on my half-dead bike and doing anything but being alone. And if there's one thing I've learned in my 60 years on this planet, my 62 years, it's if I'm feeling that way, there certainly are other people who feel the exact same way. And we've talked enough on this channel over the past 13 years, different friends and viewers and people and I, to know that we do have a bit of a community here, and that we do share an awful lot in common. There's the occasional shit-tard that I don't care about, the occasional shitty human being who shows up and says something tragically awful. But for the most part, we are kindred spirits here. So I'm standing here once again, and I had planned on getting up early and going to the gym, which I haven't done in weeks. And I just got filled with dread, just absolute sheer dread. And by mistake, I ended up watching a couple of videos on YouTube about how tragic the world is, and that we have to prepare for all of it. There were TED Talks too, which was really bad. And I don't have a blind eye turned to any of it, to none of it. I go to protests, I do all the social justice stuff. But I'm also tired at this point of horror, like endless horror and bad things coming down the pike. So what I would like to do, what I'm going to do my best to do, is to turn on the camera. Oh, that smells. And we spend a little bit of time together, doing this thing that makes absolutely no sense anymore to even try, but doing it anyway, because we've got two choices. We can curl up, well, we've got a few, but the first umpteen involve curling up in a ball and giving up, or laying in bed and just crying. And so we're not going to do that one today. Another version is sitting in a chair and staring at the wall, which I have always had a tendency to do. Since I was a kid, I've suffered from depression. Not suffered, but I'll get super, super depressed, and then I'm frozen for sometimes a few hours or sometimes a few days or even months, which happened this summer. But this is what we're going to do today. We are going to focus on our purpose in life. We are going to take, and by we, I mean me and all my stuff, just take it and we're going to put it into this one thing that at times seems really dumb and fruitless, and then at other times fills our entire world and our entire being. And that's what we're going to do, is this one thing, the reason that we're here, that we've been here, the one thing that's gotten us out of bed some days, the one thing that has brought us any connection to life, or has brought you a great life. I was talking with a friend this morning. Oh, by the way, I'm distressing, quote unquote, my portrait of Sophie Scholl, who was part of an organization. Oh, I didn't mean to jam my finger in my nose. Sorry about that. Who was part of an organization called the White Rose Society. And Sophie Scholl, she as a teenager joined the Hitler Youth. She joined Hitler Youth even though her father was a pacifist and really well educated, as was her mom. But she, her brother, her siblings, they all joined the Hitler Youth. And then she went off to university. She went to the University of Munich, where her brother Hans was already being educated. And her mind expanded. She learned about different points of view and learned about history and philosophy and all kinds of things. All the things that make up a whole human being. And so at the University of Munich, she and Hans joined together with other friends and with educators and professors and other students, and they formed the White Rose Society because they were becoming enlightened to the horrors around them. And they became enlightened to what exactly was going on, that it wasn't about national pride, and that this nationalism was a stain and destroying people. Victims as well, or the targeted victims, as well as the German people. They realized they had been fed a bill of goods. I mean, this is so simplistic of me to say, but they were sold a bill of goods. They bought into it. They bought all the propaganda, and then at the University of Munich, they woke up. Similar to somebody shutting off Fox News, or any one of 100 other idiotic news programs, stations, whatever. They were removed from the propaganda, or they removed themselves. So anywho, Sophie and her brother Hans and their friends, who I know the names of and can't remember right now, they started putting out these pamphlets, the White Rose Society pamphlets, and they were talking about how destructive Hitler and the Nazi movement was. And of course, there were little spies the Nazi version of Karens everywhere And they were looking for people like this. They were looking for people who didn't fall in line, who didn't, you know, sign an oath to the Nazi movement in the New Germany. But they were looking for people who were speaking out against the government. They were looking for people who were speaking out against the government. And I'm going to remind you, the Scholls were once in the Nazi youth. Let's keep that in mind. And we have our equivalent now that the government has been putting together. So, Sophie and their compatriots were essentially dumping leaflets all over the city of Munich and Berlin, apparently, I think, if I remember correctly, or who knows. And there was one day she filled up a suitcase full of pamphlets and went to the University of Munich. And while classes were in session, she went up on a balcony and she meant to put them out on the balcony, on the railing, for people to see. And she, by mistake, dumped the entire suitcase full of pamphlets down into the lobby. And that would have been okay. However, there was a janitor who was a part of the Nazi Party. And again, the Nazi parties had little spies everywhere, little eyes and little spies, looking for people who would dare to speak out against the government and their destruction of the country. Well, Sophie, where's my brush? Sophie was caught later that day by the SS or the Gestapo and imprisoned, she and her brother. They were questioned, and they just said, nope, this is what we're doing, this is wrong. I mean, actually, their speeches were incredible. And they were put before a tribunal. And you've got to either see the film about Sophie Scholl or read her speech to them, because she said to these judges, these Nazi judges, one day you will be standing where I am, is one of the many brilliant things that she said. She was so courageous. She was sentenced to death, she and her brother and all their compatriots, all the freedom fighters that they caught, all the White Rose Society members. They were sentenced to death, and they were executed in public. They were executed using a guillotine. This woman was 22 years old when this happened. 22. Now, I learned about Sophie Scholl about 5 years ago, I think. About 5 years ago. And I became so obsessed with her that I had to paint her, and I did like a 4 foot by 4 foot painting, which is sitting in my back room. And I've posted it in various places, but I didn't know why. I just had to paint her. Other than I really admire her. I admire her courage and her stalwart faith, her very strong convictions. She saw her position as an opportunity to help wake Germany up. She saw her position as a student with access to a press, with access to other anti-fascists in Germany, you know, to all these people who believed in their country and believed in the heart of the country, the heart that was, the soul that was, and they believed they could bring it back and save their culture from destruction. So I did that portrait of her, and it's been sitting. I can't remember when I did it. I think it was 5 years ago. And my housemate at the time was like, well, that's really maudlin. And I went, I know, but I can't help it. I knew. And she's someone, I went to a banned book meeting about 4 months ago, and I think it was 4 or 5 months ago, and they were reading 1984, which, woof, that haunts me, and has for years. We've also talked about Maus, M-A-U-S. Ugh, that haunts me. But I stood up and I said to this group of youth, social justice youth, these social justice young people, or young people fighting for social justice, I said, you remind me of Sophie Scholl. And I'm telling them, and I went, oh, except for the execution part, we won't go there. And I got a lot of looks. But as we move along here in America, I'm now understanding how Sophie came into my life, and how why I was so obsessed with her and painting her. And so now I've done this little illustration of her. Let me show you. And I've put her on a board that I cut. I actually did all the detail on it. They're all roses, coincidentally. And so I've been burning and fraying and sanding her, as you saw. And now she's been attached. And so in a few minutes, what I'm going to do is take her and highlight different aspects of the paint. I don't want her too highlighted. I want her to feel just like this. I want her to express something. I can't put it into words, but this is how I feel. Tattered, torn, exhausted. And slightly and very out of step with everything that was. So I'm going to keep sanding this a little bit. But I want to share with you something really positive. Look up Sophie Scholl, S-C-H-O-L-L. There's a great film out about her. It will absolutely rock your world. especially when you go, this girl was 22 years old. And she looked at a courtroom full of Nazis and Hitler judges, you know, all these judges who supported, see if this sounds familiar, supported Hitler and supported this white nationalist movement and this movement to suppress and make people conform. Anyway, so I'll share with you something really cool. So earlier today I was talking to an artist I happen to really like as a human being. I love his stuff. It's just like, it's not this. It's not, it's his stuff. His name is Gwak, G-W-A-K. G-W-A-K is his tag name. And he has a place, I think in Bradenton. I'm not sure. He's right around here somewhere. We did an artist talk together months ago up in Bradenton. It took me an hour to get there by scooter. Was it 2 hours? I don't know. It took me forever by scooter. And so he ended up driving me home. And he's just one of the nicest people I've ever met, and super successful and just pleasant, just a pleasant human being. But he gave me and my scooter a ride home, thank God, because I could not do that again. That was exhausting. Yeah, so anywho, he gave me a ride home. Nice, really nice, decent, grateful man, just really kind, young. And he does this pop art stuff of Krylon spray cans and these gigantic cigarette packs that have been Marlboros that have been crunched up. Really fun, silly, weird stuff. And so I was messaging with him this morning on Instagram. We were messaging back and forth. And I said, well, you know, I made a reel about this and that, and I used Thumpasaurus. It's on YouTube, but I used Thumpasaurus as my music. And every time I do, it reminds me of you. Just the quirkiness and the energy. And he was like, oh, thank you. And he said something really nice. And I think we need to be sharing stuff like this more and more. It's so smelly. More and more often now, how we feel about one another, or the better aspects we see in each other. Because I know I get inundated by hate scrollers sometimes, and other people who are just destructive. But he said to me, Gwak said to me, Beck, every time I go into Sarasota, or I talk to somebody in Sarasota, your name comes up, and I went, And he said, you have a really good reputation. That made my day, and that gave me the energy to do this, and to do this, and to be able to talk to you. And hopefully, I kind of feel like I might be able to leave the house now today. Oh, that's what I was looking for. I might be able to leave the house today because someone I look at is super positive and very successful was kind enough to share with me some kind words that people had said about me. I don't really care what people think. I really don't. But then there are days when you just need to hear it. So if I go out, this is what I'm going to do. And I probably will. Probably make myself. But this is what I love to do, especially with my new teeth and my new smile. I love walking up to people I don't know and going, I love your dress. I love your dress. Or I love your shoes. I did that all over St. Pete a few weeks ago. And the people I was with were like, oh my God, you're a fashion maven. And I go, I just want people to feel better. There's enough ick in the world. And it's obvious, like this guy put on these fantastic white Doc Martens. And And so I was like, I love your Doc Martens. Where did you get them? It takes 5 seconds. It just takes 5 seconds. I saw a girl who was kind of big. And it was obvious she was uncomfortable. She was doing her best. So she started going by. I go, I love your outfit. It's fantastic. Do you always dress like this? And she's like, I try, thank you. And I go, you've made my day. Look at your colors. I'll go to Trader Joe's and I'll find a woman who's alone and shopping and maybe in my age range. And you can tell they're just anxious and just trying to get through the supermarket. Find something. I love your dress. I've said that to a woman one day. I love your dress. I love the colors. They're perfect on you. Look at how great you look. It turned out she owns a restaurant right up the street from me. And she invited me, but I probably won't go. But you know what? Let's do a little bit more of this. You can tell I've been burning them. Do a little bit more of this and a little bit more of that. And try and hold each other up, okay? All right, again, I'm Beck Lane. This is Catalyst and Company. Let's just do our best today. And don't forget to reward yourself, all right? All right. Doop-de-doo. Doop-de-doo. And Sophie Scholl. Go find the movie about Sophie Scholl. Go look her up. What an amazing young woman. Ciao. Ciao. Meow, meow.